Let's begin by going through the entire first lesson. We will explain each part of the lesson, including the structure of the lesson, opportunities to provide feedback to your students, and the equipment needed to complete the lesson. After completing the first lesson, we will just go through the details about subsequent lessons that make each lesson unique. Lesson 1 begins with an introduction to human anatomy. Your students will learn about the bones, joints, muscles, and nerves. They'll gain a deeper understanding of how each of these parts of the body impacts the way that they move. This part of the lesson does not require physical activity. Therefore, students can be seated in front of a screen if you have one available. It is important to make sure that your students are comfortable with the information delivered in the introduction. Not only does the entire lesson build off this introduction, but each subsequent lesson does too. You can pause the visual resource at any point to allow more time for discussion. Remember, the ebook will have more details about specific parts of the section and will have answers to some of the different discussion questions. During the neurodynamic warm-up, each exercise will play on screen for 45 seconds. The purple circle in the top right corner can be used to time out the first 15 seconds. This time can be used to demonstrate the exercise and give your students instructions. The circle will then turn blue and count down 30 seconds. During that time, your students should perform the exercise to the best of their ability. You should use that time to identify students who are struggling to perform the exercise correctly and provide feedback to help improve their technique. Use the technique tips provided on the screen or come up with your own internal or externally focused cues. This same pattern will continue for all 10 warm-up exercises. Building skills for Lesson 1 is completed centered around teaching your students about the proper way to align their body segments and maintain stability in those body segments. The rocks on the left side of the screen and the spinning plates on the right side of the screen need to be perfectly balanced in order to avoid coming crashing down to the ground. To keep them balanced, they need to be properly aligned. Like the plates and rocks, body segments must be in the proper position. When the bones are in proper position, it allows the joints to function without unnecessary or harmful forces acting on the body. When the body segments are in the proper position, there are minimal harmful forces on the bones, joints, and muscles. The mortar that holds bricks together in a brick wall and the nails that hold lumber together when framing a house make the structures more stable. Without the mortar or nails, you can still stack the lumber or bricks, but it would be easy to tip them over. The nails and mortar stabilize the structure. Once the body segments are in the proper position, they should stay in that position. When the bones are stabilized in the proper position, it allows the body to move efficiently, minimizing harmful forces on the bones, joints, and muscles. When the upper body is properly aligned, the spine is in a safe and healthy position. For every inch that the head moves forward from a neutral position, an additional 10 pounds of force are placed on the neck. The spine has natural, healthy curves. If the ear, shoulder, and hip form a straight line when viewed from the side, the spine is in the proper or neutral position. How does texting affect neutral positioning of the spine? Teachers should use external and internally focused cues, including lift your head towards the ceiling to help improve students' posture. Have your students stand up with their upper body properly aligned. Now, have them lightly tap their head to the front, back, and side. We call this the two-finger test, a simple test of stability. Demonstrate the small force needed to move the spine out of alignment. Demonstrate the power of conscious control of the upper body in maintaining alignment of the spine. Your students did so much work to align their upper body, and all it took was that light tap to lose that alignment. It is important that they learn to stabilize themselves in that position once they are properly aligned, so they don't find themselves out of alignment at any point. Have your students push harder on their head this time, but make sure they are focused on not letting their head move. This simple exercise demonstrates the power of conscious control of our muscles. We can use this power to get into the proper position and stay in that position. Functional test, squat. Evaluate ability to stabilize the upper body during a fundamental movement. Students should work with a partner to receive an accurate assessment of their alignment and stability. When the lower body is properly aligned, the joints of the lower body are in a safe and healthy position. When the hip, knee, and ankle form a straight line when viewed from the front, the lower body is in the proper position. How could running or jumping with poor alignment of the lower body impact ligaments like the ACL? Keep your kneecap over your shoelaces and make sure your toes and knees are facing forward are helpful cues to help improve lower body alignment. Let's repeat the two-finger test, but this time looking at the lower body. Have your students get into a half-kneeling position. Then, have them lightly tap their knee from side to side. Have them note how easy it is to end up out of proper alignment. Have them push the outside of their knee so that it rotates inward. The reason the knee stops rotating in at a certain point is because the ligaments, like the ACL, are preventing it from doing so. In order to protect those ligaments from injury, it is important that we avoid ending up in a position like this where the ligament has added forces placed on it. Now have your students get back into a properly aligned half-kneeling position. Have them push harder on the sides of their knee, this time not letting the knee rotate in or out. Just like we did with the upper body, notice how simple conscious control can help keep our body in a safe position, despite the external forces acting on our bodies. Functional test, squat. Evaluate ability to stabilize the lower body during a fundamental movement. Students should work with a partner to receive an accurate assessment of their alignment and stability. The peer assessment labs for day 1 are quite straightforward. They only require some sort of timing device. A clock on the wall, a cell phone with a timer, or a stopwatch will all suffice. The first test is the high plank. This test is used to assess the alignment and stability of the upper body. To perform this test, students will hold themselves in a push-up position. The goal is to properly align and stabilize the upper body for 30 seconds. The test begins when students lift their body into the proper position. The test should be stopped if the student is properly aligned and stabilized for the entire 30 seconds, if the student is too tired to continue, or if the student is unable to maintain the proper test position. If students are working with a partner, the evaluator should determine when to stop the test. If the students are self-assessing, they should do their best to stop the test based on the criteria listed above. Each partner will have 2 attempts and they should alternate roles between each attempt. If students are completing the lab on their own, they should give themselves 1 minute of rest between attempts. The students can use this table that is found in their workbook to record theirs and their partner's scores on the test. The feedback section allows the students to expand on what went well or didn't go so well during each attempt. The goal is not to have every student hold a high plank for the full 30 seconds by the second attempt. That is probably impossible. However, the goal is that students will understand what it takes to ace this test. They can work on improving their alignment and stability and focus on performing planks with proper technique. If they were to compare this assessment again in the future, that practice should help improve their score. The second test is the single leg stance test. This test is used to assess balance. Students that are able to properly align and maintain stability of their upper and lower body may perform well on this test. Students begin by standing on one leg with both arms across their chest. The test begins once properly aligned and stabilized. The test ends if students move their arms, the raised foot touches the other leg or the ground, or they remain aligned and stable for 30 seconds. They will then repeat the test by standing on the opposite leg. The first student should complete the test with both legs before the partners switch roles. If students are completing this lab on their own, they can hold a timer during the test. If time allows, students can complete the test a second time. Just like the high plank test, students should record their scores on this table that can be found in their workbooks. They can also make note of any challenges that prevented them from completing the test in the feedback section. The closure for Lesson 1 will give your students a chance to reflect on what they learned throughout the lesson. They can share their thoughts on strategies they might use to improve their scores on the peer assessment labs. Students can also share strategies that help them do well on the assessments to help their classmates who may have struggled with the assessments. Students will also have a chance to answer the day's essential question. Possible answers to these questions can be found in the ebook within Lesson 1.